All right, so we got our brief overview, and let's move right into the fire module. The fire module, as you can see, it's laid out exactly like the EHR module. The look, the feel. This is your initial screen. This is where you're going to find all of your incidents that have been dropped in by CAD. One quick note on the CAD that I think it's important that everybody recognize. The way that CAD input is it works within this system is that it's constantly feeding and capturing new data as CAD puts in. So response times, clear times, arrival times for every unit. But the minute that someone opens this record during the incident, so Station 8 goes out on a call and Station 9 wants to hear what's going on. They log into ESO, they open this field up. The minute that Station 9 opens this incident up for Station 8, all the CAD input stops at that point. It doesn't mean that we won't ever get it, it just means it stops putting it in automatically. So I would just recommend that if the call is going on and you don't need to be in the incident, don't get in the incident. There's just no need for that. And then in just a minute, I'm going to show you how to upgrade your CAD information from inside the incident. So if you are completing an incident record, you can upgrade that or update that information so that it doesn't stop. But use other tools, PulsePoint, your MCT, Active 911, whatever you want to kind of look for that information. Soon you'll be able to use FirstDo. I think the mobile app is being rolled out on your iPhones. So there's other ways to capture that information, or those inquiring minds want to know what's happening on in the district. There's other ways to capture that information. Once you get into ESO, you put a stop to the input that's coming in automatically. Then you have to go to a manual process there. So we're just going to click on this first incident. You can see that we have a call that's occurred on 12/7/2017 at 8 a.m. It's the incident number F172345. It's at 1974 Fircrest Drive. It already has building fire put in there. Again, this is open up to the entire ESO community, so some of this stuff is being filled in on by other people around the world, and so I don't have any access to that. But we're in draft status. We're going to open that incident. You can see that again, like I said, we've made their ESO has made this to where it looks and feels like EHR. So we have our parent tabs across the top: basic, unit reports, fire reports, casualty, hazmat, wildland, and we will, because it's a test beta database, I can't do this, but the arson tab will disappear. So you only have wildland, hazmat, casualty, fire, unit reports, and basic. You'll notice, those of you that are familiar with the current fire module, you'll notice that there's only one basic module. There's not two. There's not a basic 1, basic 2. They've all been combined into this. Incident, we have so this is our parent tabs across the top, then we have our child tabs here off to the side. Incident, the aid, location, times, counts, loss, person and owner, authorization, and narrative. I just want to kind of breeze through these pretty quick. Remember, I just talked about the CAD being stopped if you open this. It's not a bad idea if you're coming in here and you've cleared your call and you're starting this report. It's not a bad idea to hit the CAD import button. I'm not going to do it in this database because we don't have a CAD import working in this database. But by clicking this, you will bring in the latest update information from CAD. You'll get all the latest calls, maybe some of those missing times that are in there, whatever you want. Just understand, if other people have put in and they've fixed their times or whatever, it's not going to overwrite narratives. It's not going to take away anything, but it will update with whatever CAD had. So if CAD had wrong numbers and Aid 9 has fixed their validations, and the Engine 8 officer is getting in here and he clicks that CAD import, you're just going to put those validation errors back in there. It's going to overwrite with whatever CAD has. And so just keep that in mind, but I would recommend that if you are the company officer who's going to be in charge of doing this, I would make sure that you hit that CAD button at least once when you start this process, so that you've got the latest information that goes in there. The incident number is available through the CAD download. If you don't have that incident number and you can't find that, you could call the dispatch center at 307-5955 and they will open that up for you and tell you what incident number you have in there. Building type, the incident, this is your building type. And so we want this at the highest level. So if you have a structure fire with a patient, that is an incident type of 111. It's a building fire. And then on the EHR side, we're going to have the patient that will be attached to that. This is not a 321. Oh, and by the way, we had a structure fire. So we had a building fire, and By the way, we also had a patient over there. Station 1, the stations are brought in automatically through CAD. Your shift is brought in. Your district, this says District 1. Just keep in mind, these are different numbers for us. They're our ESZ numbers. So our ESZ number will drop in here. Was there injury or death? This is civilian or casualty. Please remember that according to INFRS rules, any person, an employee or a volunteer with South Kitsap Fire and Rescue that is hurt, injured, or worse on the incident scene has to be documented here. So if you have any injury or death, a civilian injury or death, firefighter civilian injury or death, or both, they need to be selected in here. And those will be required. That is an INFRS required field. Was this a fire? Was it wildland, hazardous materials? I don't want to really go into a lot of detail here on these because I think we're all very familiar on the codes, and we will see more training in 2018 on actual coding for INFRS. Mutual aid given and received. This one seems to stump some people, and I just want to make sure we understand that. The default is none, but I want to make sure people understand that if we are receiving mutual aid, if we're getting mutual aid automatically, or if we're giving mutual aid, you need to make sure that these are checked appropriately. So if you are going to Pierce County or Mason County, you're giving mutual aid. If you are receiving mutual aid, if you are Ingenate and you've requested Medic 2 or you requested a special resource, you are requesting mutual aid received. If it's automatic, if on dispatch, Ingenate and Medic 2 are dispatched, that is automatic aid. It was automatically done in our CAD system. We have automatic aid agreements. You'll notice that every call in Rocky Point is given as automatic aid received. It's done automatically through our partnerships, through our contracts with them. These are no longer needed by INFRS, the aided agencies, their incident number, and aiding agencies. We keep going down. Our addresses are pretty much all filled in, but make sure that you've got property use is required. Detector alerted occupants. If this is a structure fire, it will be required. Did it alert an occupant or did it not alert an occupant? And then our times. We get down into our times. Our times look just like the EHR, but here's our alarm times. These are the overall incident times. They're not specific to units. They're just the overall alarm time. So when was the alarm come in? When did the arrival of our first arriving unit? And when did the last unit clear? Incident counts. These are all based off of incident counts from our unit reports that we'll go through in just a minute. When we get into fire loss, please understand that fire loss is required for any vehicle fire, any building fire, anywhere where there's a fire in a building or a vehicle. We have to identify what those property values are. So we do have SOP 1-54, estimating dollar loss. You can look through that. Today's day and age with the county assessor website, and those you could find the pre-incident values, or through Kelly Blue Book or whatever, you could find those pre-incident values pretty quick and easy. But there are formulas in SOP 1-54 estimating property dollar loss. Person and owner, we don't use this one as much as we'd like you to, and just keep in mind that we are weekly. We get public records requests for certain things, whether from insurance companies, from people who were involved in the incident, and any of this information helps us. If you have a fire in a building or a fire in a vehicle, we need the owner, not the renter, not the person who borrowed it. We need the owner's information. And then anybody else who is involved in that incident, it will help. I could give story after story after story, but for the sake of the video, I won't do that. But we spent a lot of time in admin just trying to research, making phone calls, figure out who in the world was out there. And if you're out there, just help us with that. Try and capture the person and owner. These are not required fields by INFRS, but they do save a lot of time and energy in the front office when they're trying to research who was actually out there. You'll notice now that the authorization and by the officer in charge and the report writer and the officer in charge is here on the main screen. I want to make sure that there's a new policy that is in draft right now, was presented to staff, but we want everybody to understand that company officers, if you are an acting lieutenant, if you are an acting lieutenant, or captain, it is your responsibility for your station before you leave in the morning that these calls are cleared. And when we started this process, we said, hey, we're not really going to hold people over, and because there's a lot of learning curve, and hey, there's a little bit of grace. But company officers, it is imperative that before you leave your shift, battalion chiefs, please help enforce this. Before you leave your shift, all calls are cleared out. And at least narratives and unit resources are all put in. Um, to drag these things out days and days and days just does not help us on the other end. So, report writers, if you are the company officer and you are in charge of this incident, your crews went on it, you need to complete this. The draft policy that we have that we presented to staff, it identifies that if you are a battalion chief or active battalion chief and you assume command, you are the officer in charge of that incident. And so your name would be in here. We need to make sure that you are overseeing and you're making sure that the story that is, the data that's been collected matches the story that occurred out in the scene. So make sure that we understand that before you leave in the morning, get all this information put in and get your reports done. Don't carry them over for the next 2 days while you run off to home. So that completes the first screen. Let's go to the unit report screen.